At 2:10 a.m. Tehran time, a B-2 Spirit stealth bomber is holding at 40,000 feet over the Qom province of Iran. Two pilots, one in the left seat, one in the right. They have been airborne for 18 hours. In the weapons bay below them, two bombs, each one 30,000 pounds, 20.5 feet long, each one with a fuse that was individually programmed before they left Missouri. Below the aircraft, a mountain, ordinary looking, trees on the lower slopes, a road, a small compound, nothing from above that tells you what is inside it. But these two pilots know exactly what is inside it, because the people who built these bombs spent 15 years learning every detail of what they are about to destroy. The release window opens in 90 seconds. Here is what they are carrying, what it does, what it found inside that mountain, and what Iran did when the smoke cleared. Stay with me, because the headline you already know is the least interesting part of this story. The vault. 15 years earlier, a Defense Threat Reduction Agency officer was walked into a vault. Not a meeting room, not a briefing room, a vault. The kind with a door that takes two people to close. He was shown satellite photographs, classified. A construction project in the mountains of Iran, near the city of Qom. Someone was digging into a mountain in secret. He looked at the photographs. He understood two things immediately. First, Iran was building a uranium enrichment facility inside that mountain, underground, in secret, because they believed that if they went deep enough, no weapon on Earth could ever reach it. Second thing he understood, they were right. The United States did not have a weapon that could reach it. So the job was not just to study the mountain, the job was to build the thing that would kill it. He and his teammates spent the next 15 years doing exactly that. Kane's words at the Pentagon briefing, for more than 15 years, these officers lived and breathed this single target. They literally dreamed about this target at night when they slept. They thought about it driving to work. Iran started digging at Fordow in 2006. The spoil piles gave it away in 2009. When you hollow out a granite mountain, the rock has to go somewhere. Satellite analysts noticed the piles were too large for the compound's visible footprint. Iran was forced to disclose. Iran built a secret nuclear facility inside a mountain. The thing that got them caught was the dirt they had to put somewhere. You can hide what is inside a mountain. You cannot hide the mountain you dug out of it. The weapon. The problem those two officers kept running into, the United States did not have a bomb that could reach Fordow. Not a budget problem, not a procurement delay, a physics problem. The facility sits 79 meters below the surface. Not 79 meters of soil, 79 meters of solid granite. Most bunker-busting bombs in the world's arsenals can punch through about 6 meters of os. Reinforced concrete. Not 79, not granite, 6. The math was not close. So they built a new bomb specifically for this one target. The GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, 30,000 pounds, 20.5 feet long, casing made from ES-1 Eglin steel, engineered specifically for this weapon, more than twice as hard as gun barrel steel. It has to be, when a 30,000-pound object hits granite at terminal velocity. The casing has to survive impact completely intact before the explosive inside reaches the target. If it deforms early, the bomb detonates in the wrong place. Inside the casing, 5,342 pounds of explosive, two compounds, AFX 757 to survive the penetration without going off early, and PBXN 114 for controlled detonation inside a confined underground space. The fuse is where it gets genuinely strange. The GBU-57 carries a smart fuse that reads its environment in real time as the bomb descends. It senses voids. It counts material layers. It does not detonate when the bomb hits the surface. It detonates when it determines the bomb is actually inside the structure it was built to destroy. For the Fordow strike, 12 bombs, 12 unique fuse programs, not a shared profile, 12 individual programs, each calibrated to that bomb's exact role in the detonation chain. Kane said the program used so many PhDs running supercomputer simulations that the Pentagon was quietly the biggest user of supercomputer hours in the United States. for one bomb, for one target, one mountain. Iran filled a mountain with uranium centrifuges. The US filled a supercomputer cluster with ways to destroy them. The only aircraft certified to carry the GBU-57 is the B-2 Spirit. Each B-2 carries 2. Getting 12 bombs to Fordow required 7 B-2s. The flight. 7 B-2 Spirits lifted off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri just before midnight on June 21st local time. 6 flew east, 1 flew west toward Guam as a decoy, to create the impression this was a Pacific deployment, not an Iran strike. That misdirection was known to only a handful of planners and a few senior Pentagon officials. The 6 strike aircraft flew east, Atlantic, Mediterranean, over Israel, where a fighter escort joined them, then south into Iranian airspace. The round trip was 36 to 37 hours, more than 13,000 miles, the longest B-2 mission since the opening of the Afghanistan War in 2001. Inside the cockpit, 2 crew members taking shifts, 1 flying, 1 sleeping on a small cot behind the seats, drinking about a bottle of water per hour amidst pressurized cabins dehydrate pilots fast, using piddle packs instead of a toilet because every minute counts on a mission this long, taking amphetamines from the flight doctor to stay alert for the weapons release window. That is what a 36-hour bombing mission looks like from the inside. The families of these crews found out what their husbands and wives were doing on the evening of June 21st, not before, same time as the world. The crews had been airborne for hours before their families knew where they were going. That is a classification level, not a logistical note. Iran's radar network saw nothing incoming. The B-2's flying wing geometry scatters radar returns in every direction except back toward the emitter. To a radar screen at 2 a.m., it reads roughly as a large bird. Iran's radar operators staring at their screens saw a clear sky. They were not looking at a clear sky. 6 bombs down, 1 shaft. 2:10 a.m. Tehran time. The target was not the mountain, not the compound, not the road, not the trees. 2 ventilation shafts, 2 openings on the surface of the mountain, each roughly the width of a car, the only above-ground entry points into a facility 79 meters below. Days before the strike, Iranian engineers added concrete caps to both shafts. They knew something was coming. Trump's social media posts about military action had been specific enough that Iran was hardening everything it could reach. Against most penetrating munitions, a concrete cap on a shaft opening adds real protection. Against the GBU-57's first bomb, the concrete cap was not protection. It was the first aim point. Bomb 1's entire job was to remove it, which it did, in roughly the time it takes to read this sentence. 6 bombs, 1 shaft, engineered over 15 years for exactly this sequence. Bomb 1 removes the concrete cap, not to destroy the target, to clear the entrance. Bombs 2, 3, 4, 5 enter the now open shaft and descend at more than 1,000 feet per second through 79 meters of granite, each one with its own fuse program calibrated to its depth and roll, each building on the penetration channel the bomb before it created. By the time Bomb 5 detonated, it was inside the enrichment facility. Bomb 6, the flex weapon. If any bomb in the sequence malfunctions, fails to detonate, goes off target, Bomb 6 fills the gap. All 6 went exactly where they were designed to go. Kane confirmed it, all 6 weapons at each shaft, exactly on target. What happened inside? Overpressure. Not fragmentation, not direct impact on the centrifuge cascades, the blast wave. 5 GBU-57s detonating in sequence inside a sealed tunnel network. The pressure driving through every connected passage and chamber, finding nowhere to go except through the target. A centrifuge spinning at 50,000 revolutions per minute does not need to be struck directly to be destroyed. Extreme vibration delivered through surrounding rock is enough. The IAEA Director General confirmed it. Given the explosive payload and the vibration-sensitive nature of centrifuges, very significant damage is expected to have occurred. The pilot in the trailing aircraft watched the detonation from behind. He told Kane directly, "This was the brightest explosion I have ever seen. It literally looked like daylight." What he saw was not a surface explosion. The mountain's surface showed nothing unusual. What he saw was 2.5 tons of explosive releasing inside a sealed mountain, the energy driving back up through the only exits available, the same shafts the bombs had entered. The mountain exhaled through its own wounds. Here is the detail that gets lost in most coverage of this strike. The surface of the mountain after the bombs detonated showed 2 small craters where the ventilation shafts had been. That is all. No massive crater, no collapsed hillside, no obvious visible catastrophe from above. The mountain looked almost the same from a satellite as it had before the mission. That is the design. The destructive effect was happening 79 meters below in a space no one could see from above. The size of the surface craters and the extent of the underground destruction have almost no relationship to each other. Iran built a mountain fortress. The US built a bomb that goes through mountains. One project took 15 years, the other took 36 hours to deliver. Neither of them went according to Iran's plan. What the satellites saw, November 2025. 5 months after the strike, ISIS reports satellite assessment of Fordow, dormant, no construction equipment, no crane, no concrete mixer, no earth movers, no new road leading toward reconstruction, no activity that suggested Iran was working to restore the facility. The shaft penetration holes had been backfilled with soil, not repaired, filled with dirt. That distinction matters. Repair means you plan to use the facility again. Backfill means you want to stop anyone assessing how deep the damage actually went. You repair what you plan to use again. You fill holes in things you have given up on. The 2 DTRA officers were still watching. That is still their job. They watched Iran build it for 15 years. They would watch to see if Iran would try to rebuild it. November 2025. December 2025, January 2026. The answer stayed the same every time they checked. Let me be specific about what the ISIS reports November 2025 assessment actually showed, because this is the most important single piece of evidence in this entire story. The imagery showed the shaft penetration holes had been filled. A short road had been built to allow vehicles to access the crater area. Vehicles whose presence indicated damage assessment, not reconstruction. A crane had been erected briefly, then removed. No new ventilation infrastructure, no utility work, no concrete pour. The assessment language was explicit. Activities appear to have been mainly related to damage assessment and minimal cleanup. That is not rebuilding. That is accepting the loss and documenting how bad it was. Iran was not rebuilding Fordow, it was adapting elsewhere. Talagan 2 at Parchin, believed to be connected to nuclear weapons component testing, encased in fresh concrete and buried before Epic Fury. New missile inventory being replenished. Iran was not surrendering. It was reorganizing around the damage, but the enrichment cascades inside Fordow, the IR-6 centrifuges running at 60% U-235 enrichment by 2025, those were gone. The capacity to produce the starting material for a nuclear weapon destroyed. February 28, 2026. By early 2026, the diplomatic window was gone. Iran had rejected the final round of nuclear talks in Oman. IAEA inspector access was increasingly restricted. The IAEA had documented approximately 460 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% U-235. That material was the starting point for further enrichment to weapons grade, and satellite imagery had shown 16 trucks at the Fordow access road 48 hours before the June 2025 strike. Then the trucks moved. Then they were gone. The uranium went somewhere. The U.S. intelligence community knew it existed. It did not know exactly where it was. 9:45 a.m. Tehran time, February 28, 2026. Operation Epic Fury begins. More than 1,000 targets in the first 24 hours, not surgical. Systemic, command and control, air defense, naval vessels, IIRGC. Headquarters, ballistic missile production and storage. The entire military infrastructure of the Iranian state struck simultaneously across every domain. 9:32 a.m., 13 minutes before Epic Fury's official start time, an Israeli airstrike hit Khamenei's residential compound in Tehran. Real-time intelligence had confirmed a senior leadership meeting at that location. The timing was coordinated around that intelligence. Khamenei killed. His daughter killed. his son-in-law killed, his grandchild killed, his daughter-in-law killed, Defense Minister Aziz Nasirzadeh killed, IRGC Commander Mohammad Pakpour killed, Head of the Defense Council Ali Shamkhani killed. Around 40 senior officials in the opening hours. Iranian state media ran archival footage. Hours of denial. By the end of February 28th, the government announced 40 days of national mourning. On the streets of Tehran that same night, some neighborhoods draped in black, other neighborhoods with people who were not mourning. Both Irans in the same city on the same night. And Fordow was struck again. Same mountain, same shafts, now filled with soil from the 2025 damage assessment. The bombs went through the backfill. You double strike a target for one reason. You cannot afford any remaining question about whether the first strike finished the job. The U.S. left no remaining question. Day 24, March 24th, 2026. Here is what those 24 days actually destroyed. The IDF has struck over 1,700 Iranian military targets. Not finished. Hundreds more on the list. 70% of Iran's estimated 500 ballistic missile launchers destroyed or disabled. 3 decades of acquisition, North Korean technology transfers, underground storage tunnels in western and central Iran built to survive exactly this kind of sustained campaign. 70% gone in 24 days. More than 100 air defense systems eliminated, more than 120 radar and detection systems gone. The ADF now has air supremacy over the seas. Most of Iranian airspace. That would have been called strategically impossible 18 months ago. CENTCOM total as of March 24th, more than 9,000 Iranian targets struck, more than 9,000 combat flights, more than 140 naval vessels destroyed, Iran's naval headquarters obliterated, the Navy that was supposed to enforce a strait closure, gone. 13 U.S. service members have been killed in Operation Epic Fury. That number belongs in every honest account of this operation. Mojtaba Khamenei was named Supreme Leader on March 8th. He has not appeared publicly since. His wife, sister, and mother-in-law were killed in the same strike that killed his father. His first public message as Supreme Leader was read on television by a presenter, not delivered by him. He says the Strait of Hormuz stays closed. The strait carries 20% of the world's daily oil supply through a 21-mile-wide passage. Oil peaked at $126 a barrel. The IEA called it the worst energy crisis since the 1970s. But closing strait requires ships. Iran's ships are at the bottom of the sea, what Iran already was. Here is the part that gets left out of most coverage. These bombs did not land on a stable country that was functioning normally until military action disrupted it. In December 2025, protests broke out across Iran. By January 2026, 5 million Iranians were in the streets across all 31 provinces. The trigger was economic. $1 was buying 1.45 million rials. Food prices 66% higher in 1 year. The minimum monthly wage in real terms had collapsed. The Grand Bazaar in Tehran, the merchant class whose 1979 general strike helped end the Shah, shut its metal